Okay. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Governance Committee. Thank you for giving up your lunch hour. And I'd like to call the meeting to order. Ms. Vaughn, would you do a roll call?
Yes. Ms. Foster? Oh, did we lose her? Well, I see she's present. Dr. Collins Adams? And Ms. Hubbard? You
I'm
have a
here.
call.
Thank you. And my agenda is on my phone, so I'm sorry that it's going back and forth. Okay, so the first order of business is approval of minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes from our previous governance meeting on, what was the date? I'm sorry,
8-7.
8/7/2025.
I'll second it. And I guess we still have a quorum, so we can go ahead and vote.
You have a hand raised by Dr. Borche.
Oh. Go ahead, Dr. Borche.
Hi there. I just wanted the minutes to reflect in roll call. It says committee members present and then other attendees. I was present for the last meeting.
Okay.
Reflected.
Thank you.
So I guess if I can make a friendly amendment to your motion, Dr. Collins Adams, I would say add with corrections. And if you're good with that, I'm good with that.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, we're ready for our vote. Ms. Foster?
I think she dropped off.
Okay. Ms.
Technical difficulties.
Dr. Collins Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Motion approved.
I'm getting live updates. Okay. The next order of business is the consultant agreement with the Wyndham Group. When we had that as a board bill originally, it got referred back to the governance committee. And I've talked to a lot of different people, and I kind of want to collate what I know before we have discussion. Armanino, in their report, asked us to review the whistleblower policy.
Winter.
And my understanding of it was they felt like obviously our financial one, we need to make sure people knew how to use it. But also they indicated they were looking for a way for our employees to feel protected when they saw things that were going wrong. However, after talking to Dr. McLaughlin, that's not what a whistleblower policy does. So if we can put on the next meeting, Ms. Vaughn, the agenda to talk about what the policy should be, or we can talk about it now. Talk about it and then make it formal. That would be great. So any thoughts?
Am I open? I have a question.
Yes.
So as the position that we're in right now, our whistleblower policy was up for review anyway, or it had already been reviewed, voted upon by, or sent to MSBA. So if you could just update where we are with the policy.
Policy has I
Board
think
Member Board Member Foster asked, can we restate the current? We're talking about the consulting agreement with Wyndham Group, Board Member Foster. Can you
Okay,
hear?
awesome. Yep, thank you
Okay.
so much. I think I'm having internet connection issues, so I think I can hear better than if
Okay.
I'm on video. So I'll come on video when it's time to vote. But just wanted to get caught up. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Ms. McLaughlin.
Thank you. I think there are two issues on the agenda today, and the first one, number 3 on your agenda, is about the Wyndham Group, which is the consultant that we've used for the compliance reporting aspect, if you will. He's the one who's been collecting the whistleblower complaints today. And then later in your agenda is a review and revision that we're recommending for our whistleblower policy, which is number 7 on your agenda, Board Policy DA, titled Fiscal Responsibility. So that in itself is our whistleblower policy, as the board adopted in February of 2025, under the guidance of MSBA's foundational policies, if you will. So I'm a little, where do you want to go with the discussion? So I'm not trying to change your agenda. I'm not sure where you want to go with the discussion at this point.
Well, we have to have a person, we have to have a whistleblower person. And we are going to need to find somebody. He has been our whistleblower person for many years. We could do an RFP, but we'd have to extend the contract month by month until we get new people. So that was like the board bill that we were talking about. And I think it was referred to governance for us to discuss, I think, what whistleblower meant. And the discussions I've had show that it's like in the legal things, it's supposed to be about finance and fraud. And that's great. So I think we can refer this bill back to the main board. And I think there is a desire, certainly I have the desire, and my understanding from the Armanino report was that there are not protections in place for employees. And they felt there needed to be some. And so my suggestion, and then we can discuss, is that we refer this back to the full board in the meeting, and for the extending the contract month to month, do an RFP. And I would like to have one of the Armanino team members that talked through us come back and sort of explain what they meant, because Miss McLaughlin wasn't there. Four of our board members weren't there. So just to get kind of a little refresh and see if what they meant was that we need to be protecting our employees. How do we make that happen if it doesn't fit within the scope of the whistleblower policy? So any thoughts, discussions on that?
I think my initial thoughts are, as one of the board members who probably was not present, I'm assuming, is if we would need to change like scope of work, description, etc., in order to ensure that that policy is in place to protect our employees first before we bring the entire renewed contract to the full board. And this is a question. Open to like ideas, but that's where I will be leaning, because I think once we bring it to the full board, correct me if I'm wrong, Board Member Hubbard, like this is the point where we would be approving and saying, yes, we're moving forward month by month or however the case is. So I think we need to figure out what we want this policy to look like and what we actually want the scope of work to look like first, before we move it to the full board.
To add to your thoughts, Board Member Foster, I would ask that instead of a month-by-month contract extension, that we say that the contract can go as far as December with a 30-day notice of termination.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. President Collins, Collins Adams, I'm wondering what your thoughts are.
I think that it needs to go like a duration of the agreement. So it would start, we would agree to continue now with this group since that's the group that we've already had. And then going to put out an RFP, it would say until, we have actually gotten to that point where we reviewed an RFP and we're ready to hire someone else. So it would have, like Dr. Barisha, they said, we would give them notice that the agreement is ending. So we'd have a duration for the agreement, not month by month.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I want to understand this. From Ms. Hubbard and Ms. Foster, from our last board meeting, it was not that we had an issue with the whistleblower policy. We were actually looking at who was going to provide the compliance services for that policy. Okay.
Yeah, that is what I understood as well. I think with what Board Member Hubbard just presented, along the lines of what our actual audits were saying from Armanino, that probably needs to, in my opinion, probably needs to get figured out as well, like probably simultaneously beforehand, but agree with the line of thinking that we should extend this out to December with 30-day notice.
Yes.
Right. So as I understand it, the policy that was reviewed and changed actually was sanctioned in February, and the Armanino report came out prior to that review. So if that's the case, then we're on track to be able to do the next step, and that's to have a group that would be the compliance group to receive the information and then move it forward. So I'm good.
Great. Cool. I think that answers my questions then.
We also need to understand too, that if RFPs do not come in and this group sends in RFPs and we don't have anything that we can actually balance against what they're presenting to us, then we offer them a contract so that we are not doing a limited agreement little by little by little to look for something that won't exist in our arena right now.
Yeah, I agree.
I have the board response to the Armanino management assessment. The board will consult with outside legal counsel to update its whistleblower policy and procedures. The suggestions on updates were shared during a governance meeting January 24th, and the internal auditor is working to broaden the scope of the whistleblower policy and procedures. So I think we're changing our response here. It was reviewed. We have, I think, readopted because it was probably about the same because of the, like, my civilian non-legal interpretation of what whistleblower means versus the legal interpretation of what it means and what that consists of. But my impression, and I think the impression of others during their report, was that the climate and culture had created a place where nobody felt safe to report that things were going wrong, certainly under Dr. Scarlett. And so I'd like to bring Armanino to the next closed session if they're available to just sort of share out again for the so many of us that were not there, to get a clear idea of, okay, so if that's what you want, that doesn't fit into the whistleblower policy as school boards do it. How do we make it happen? And go forward from there. And then that would, might trigger changes in the RFP. It might be developing a policy or something.
I don't know that if we're still in discussion on this, that bringing that group back to be able to discuss what we have, and we have a more pending audit right now with the state audit that actually has reviewed our Armanino, our school district audit, and then have created their own, that we would continue to review something that they've just suggested. And maybe it's just, semantic, but they suggested that we review, not revise. And my interpretation of everything that I've read so far was so that if you review something, you're going over it again so that you can follow through on the way it's designed to operate. And if we had not been following through on the way it was designed to operate, then that's where we were negligent, and we needed to be able to go back, look at it, and then do it as written. So it's been approved. I believe it was February 11, 2025. I don't have it in front of me, but if that's the case, then what we need to do is move forward with who the entity that's going to be able to take this and run with it if somebody does discover something that needs to be exposed. I don't want to belabor the process, and I don't want to delay anyone having the service provided to the employee that thinks they have something to say, and then they don't have anywhere to go. I want people to be able to speak up, feel like they're going to be heard, and then that we're going to do something about it.
Yes, that would be excellent.
And like I said, this is how I interpreted it. So, Ms. McLaughlin, you're there, you read it, you understand it. Dr. Richard, you were living through it. Ms. Hubbard, you were, during that period, you were around, you were there, I believe, on governance at the time. I believe another board member chaired it. So, set my record straight if you need to. I'm good.
My memories from January are hazy, but I know that we asked Dr. Hubbard to work on the policies. And if you could share more from what you were told to do and why, Dr. Hubbard, I would appreciate that. Because my understanding was that Armanino was recommending a greater, not just financial concerns whistleblower, but employee concerns. And we have done the whistleblower part and can move forward, but I would like Dr. Hubbard to give more context.
I'm trying to get my camera on. There we are. When I was asked by the governance committee to look at an expansion of the scope of the whistleblower policy, that was before, it was after, obviously, the management assessment, but it was before I think it was MSBA stated that for school districts, typically the whistleblower policy covers just financial malfeasance. So if that is the case, that's our industry standard. I did revise it to expand the scope, by the way, and presented it. But after we got that word from MSBA, it was the revision was set aside. Mm-hmm. And it's just reviewed from the perspective of financial malfeasance.
Okay.
And then that was it. There was no further, that I'm aware of, there was no further look into how do we protect the employees, which was the point of the finding or the observation from Armanino. So And then once Ms. McLaughlin came on board, she actually took the policy from me in terms of the update of it, and it's in her hands at this point.
Okay.
If
Yeah.
I may, the policy adopted by the board in February, the whistleblower policy DA, which we're going to talk later about revising, was reviewed not only by myself, but Minkus O'Toole, as far as not subjecting the district to additional liability.
Mhm.
The policy that was proposed by Dr. Hubbard in expanding it really duplicated and complicated many issues that would come in front of the district. And as an institution, we really couldn't have these types of actions also covered by our whistleblower. Let me give you an example. In an employee,
Ms.
if I
McLaughlin,
can,
I believe you. I don't
okay,
think this is the
I think-
appropriate.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. We simply need to keep the whistleblower as it is and recommend it by this word.
Okay. Since we've already adopted the policy, I don't believe any further action is needed for this. So we can move, if everyone is agreed, we can move to number 4.
I'm confused. Do we need a motion to send it back to the full board then, the Wyndham agreement, subject to
Yes.
it being through December with a 30-day notice of termination?
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, we probably do. Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion?
So I move that, I don't know, let's see, the Wyndham Group be reconsidered as our whistleblower consulting group. For the duration of the agreement until we are able to get the results of a request for proposal, RFP.
I think you want to add the termination piece in there.
With a 30-day termination notice, to include a 30-day termination notice.
Okay, second. Any discussion?
I will just say, like, I agree that we need to move this forward, and move it back to the full board, so the service is not absent for our employees. I do think that it is worth having just a general discussion or conversation about what those changes actually were, or what those recommended changes were for our whistleblower policy. I think that when you have multiple audits, some auditors can miss things, some auditors think of other things that are more important. So if there were recommendations from Dr. Hubbard that should have been included, or should not have been included according to Attorney McLaughlin, I would definitely like to get those at least via email at another time. But I don't think we need to take committee time to go over.
Okay, any further discussion? Ms. Vaughn?
Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Dr. Collins Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard,
Yes.
motion approved.
Right. The next thing on our agenda is our board norms. Really more as a starting point, to say that I think it's time to revise them. It doesn't seem like they're very effective at this moment. And since we have maybe I shouldn't call us a new board anymore because we've been here. But with a new board, I think it would be appropriate to sort of redo and figure out what works for us. And maybe have a shorter list of things to read at the meeting. So I just kind of wanted to put that on your minds. We can solicit from the full board suggestions and stuff. And when we have all that, and also from you, Dr. Borshaid, of course, then I can write it up and we can look at it maybe at the next governance meeting. So any thoughts on that?
Are these the norms or the things that we say in regards to our own behavior?
Mhm.
Then I believe a review would be in order so that we are reminded, and if we need to be able to add in a few things of how we govern ourselves in front of our audience with the number of questions that we ask within a time frame. How that questions rotate from person to person. You ask a question, the next person asks a question, and that if it's out there that the audience will expect that one person will not lead all of the questions, and that gives all of us a chance to be able to rotate questions along the way as we interview and our guests that are presenting to us.
Yes. And I think some of that you have the power to do as board president already, to say we're going to do this round robin, or I think that's what they called it in the MSBA meeting. But yes, if feels like if we restrict the community to 3 minutes on one topic and only 3 minutes out of 20 people that might be there, we should also be mindful of how much time we are spending and asking questions without communicating what's really going on and why we're asking the questions. I would love to see us as a board with a lot more discussion and then questions, so that we know where everyone's coming from.
Yes. So I would like to make a motion to review and update the current St. Louis Public Schools Board of Education board norms for review for the whole entire board at the next governance committee meeting.
Second.
Awesome. And then discussion. I think agreed with everything that President Collins Adams said, and Board Member Hubbard. I think again, the 2019 year is stark in our faces. It is 2025 going into the 2026 year. So agree that this definitely needs an overhaul. And to President Collins Adams' point about question and Red Robin, we got a lot of advice from MSBA directly on how we can update our board norms and policy. So I'm definitely in agreement.
Thank you.
All right. If there's no more discussion, Ms. Vaughn?
Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Dr. Collins Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard,
Yes.
motion approved.
Great. The next thing on our agenda is the Board of Education bylaw update. And I think what we need to do here is we have updated the bylaws. I remember that in the spring with Dr. Borshaid contributing, and the governance committee adopted them, but I don't think we sent it to the full board yet. So that is what this agenda item is for. We would need a motion to accept the bylaws. Well, we've already accepted them, so we need a motion to send them to the board.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Vaughn, were you about to say something?
So those, I reached out and I included Dr. Borshaid, our committee chair, Ms. Hubbard. And they are still currently making those updates, so those are not ready to come before the board. As soon as we get that email with those revisions, then they will be ready.
Okay. Then
Ms. Vaughn, thank you so much for that update, because I was very confused I wasn't aware that they had gone to the, I have the same understanding as Ms. Vaughn. Let me just say it like that.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
Accept your
Ron,
understandings.
could you repeat that?
Say that again.
So would you like for me to give an update or you want Ms. Vaughn to give an update?
I didn't quite get everything that Ms. Vaughn was saying. I was trying to.
Got it. Okay.
So, I reached out and, to MSBA regarding the bylaws that were sent back for revisions, at the previous February governance meeting. They are still working on it. It was an error on their end. They confirmed. So they are currently making those revisions. And they will send those revised bylaws back when they are ready. And at that time, then they can go before the board.
Okay. So I was
And I
wrong.
don't mind, I don't mind taking the lead and doing that work, Chairman Hubbard.
I don't want to put extra work on you.
But Dr. Bouchardeh, since it's something that I get I get a little concerned or confused with how. So we'll talk about this later. We've already started the process, though, right? Are we already on this? And we're
We
just
have
waiting.
started the process. We started the process. I want to say it's been a while. My last communication with MSBA was after our last governance meeting when I was asked to make sure that there is a follow-up. And so we resumed looking at our bylaws back in 2024 because many of our bylaws are between 19 and 25 years old. And so they are looking at them, they are categorizing them. They will send them back to us once they have taken a look at them, made the edits, made the revisions. Then it's up to the governance to take a look at it. If we are okay with it, then we take it to the full board. If we're not okay with it, we take it back to MSBA to make some revisions, just like we were doing before.
Okay.
I didn't understand the process. I'm just trying to get that clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the bylaws was that we don't have board meetings in August. Which
That was one of them, that we don't have meeting in August. But if that doesn't work for us because it will hold up the business of St. Louis Public Schools, we need to think about that.
Yeah, I would suggest that we continue on the timeline that Dr. Borshade and Ms. Vaughn just explained to us, that MSBA has the appropriate recommendations. From my knowledge, again, did not serve on the board, but watched our governance committee meetings and know for sure that they went line by line. And at this point, it sounds like it is sitting at MSBA's hand. That's
Right.
up in there for us. But yeah, I appreciate the explanation though.
yes, I definitely misunderstood what I was told about the bylaws. So we did just need an update. Y'all have updated us. Thank you very much. So we can move to the HR policy review update.
Dr. Bouchardeh, because we've had multiple conversations about a lot of different things and bylaws and specific policies. I just needed to know where all of these things stood and if it was the same process. You've explained it clearly. And thank you, Ms. Vaughn, because I now know who to call.
Those things. All right.
Okay, and so in terms of our HR policy, we've had an HR policy task force, and we've met for a minimum of maybe 10 times where we've gone over our G policies. And now that we have gone over them, we are going to be submitting them to MSBA. They will then take a look at it. It's the same process. They will take a look at them, make any suggested edits. Once they make suggested edits, then we will take it back to the task force. They will have an opportunity to look through them. Once they've looked through them, if it's all good, we will bring them to the board at a work session.
That sounds good. I'm glad to hear it's moving forward. And I'm sorry,
Yeah.
there's been so many meetings.
Yeah, well, we've had a lot. We had a lot, and the team or the task force was really, really diligent in looking at the implications of each of the policies.
Yes, I really appreciate their work. So the next item is policy review for the fiscal responsibility policy. And Ms. McLaughlin, I think you've got this one.
As I indicated before, the board adopted this policy in February of this year, and in part, the policy addresses the district's whistleblower policy, but also within this policy is the definition of the audit committee and who comprises the audit committee. I brought this to your attention because right now the policy says that the audit committee is comprised of district employees who can then consult with community members. And, in having some discussions with people, our current audit committee is comprised of community members as voting members. And the suggestion was made, the recommendation to me was made to change the policy so that it reflected that the community members were actual members of the committee, as well as district employees that are responsible for the functions that have subject matter expertise. So I bring to you today a revision to DA fiscal responsibility policy for your review. And if you accept it, then we would then take it to the full board for its consideration.
Yes, I found an original copy, and we talked about this already, and I had some misgivings, but I found an original policy on Bayless's policy list. And when I looked at that, your changes made a lot of sense. And I support that.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommendation from Attorney McLaughlin to update our fiscal responsibility and the roles of our audit committee for the duration of its longevity.
Second.
Great discussion. Again, I think I want to emphasize what Board Member Hubbard said as well. I think the clear language is appropriate, and I think it's clear for board members and community members who answer the call to action to serve on the committee.
And I want to be clear, if the committee is employees and community members, that's not a board member, right? Because it would. Okay.
Well, obviously, board members can sit on their committees. Yes. Yes.
But more, especially for this one, which is designed to, for transparency and to keep things, let the community know they can trust us. So it is. In the past, it seems like board members were on the audit committee and were voting. I mean, I think that's happened in the last couple ones. But this makes clear, obviously, we can attend committee meetings and ask questions, but board members wouldn't be voting members.
You would remain voting members. It just expands it to allow right now we have a disconnect between our policy and the committee itself.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really a clarification that we're in compliance with our own policy. So the board itself, the committee itself, excuse me, can have district employees as well. And of course, board members too will be appointed to it. The president is who determines who's appointed to the committee itself. So it's within the policy for board members, district employees, and community members to be members of the committee and they would also be voting members.
Okay.
So for example, we have a vacancy on our audit committee now, and we would then for a community member to join our audit committee. As we get individuals that are interested in it, the audit team, the audit committee as it stands now will review that information and then select a person to be able to join us for this because their vote is of extreme value and their fiscal background is the thing that we're looking for. And the committee actually only has 2 board members so that we have only 5 voting members. But any other board members can, of course, join the committee. But as a voting member, it's 2 board members are voting members, and then the other committee members are from the community.
Okay. Thank you. I think we need to have a vote.
Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Dr. Collins Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard,
Yes.
motion approved.
Great. Thank you. And the next item is the ordinance notice, and this is also Ms. McLaughlin.
Thank you. This is more for information at the moment because in the future, if the committee is interested in moving forward, we would pull together more information. But I kind of want to give you a little background. Every May each year, the board members, the superintendent, myself, our chief purchasing officer, we make personal financial disclosure statements to the state's ethics commission, right? So every year, the commission actually allows districts like ours to also make their own ordinance that could expand the requirement for disclosures, if you will, or expand the statutory conflict of interest requirements that we have right now. Let me give you a little background. I practiced for a while in Illinois at a university there, and every year I would have 100 employees at the university who had to complete these because there it's much broader. Here, we might want to think about adding our purchasing director to the conflicts analysis so that they would have to file an annual report every year. You may want to include somebody who's over an area that has contracts of a certain dollar amount also do financial disclosures. So it's an opportunity if the committee is interested for the district to expand the legal requirements for financial disclosures and conflict of interest analysis that can occur. So I want to put the seed in the committee's mind that this is something that we can consider. If we did go that route, an ordinance would have to be voted on by the full board, and we would have to notify the state by September 15th. So obviously, we're missing this year's ability to do that, but in the future, we could be prepared if you wanted to do something like this for next year, for 26.
Ms. McLaughlin, I have a couple questions. One, or just a note. One, I think yes, I'll put on record I agree that those positions should definitely be included in the policy. I am curious to know, and again, this could be sent via email or spoken right now if you have the information off the top of your head. Who at the district specifically, what roles or responsibility, who at the district has to submit those? I know you mentioned a few people, for examples,
right now, the law only requires the chief operating officer, which is Dr. Borshati. If you have a full-time general counsel, me, and our chief purchasing officer, which is essentially our CFO, the 3 of us are the only employees that are required to complete this financial disclosure each year.
Okay. Okay, and so you mentioned that currently though, for our district, that the purchasing officer is not disclosing this information, but just now
Well,
you that the
Ms.
CFO.
Johnson is, yeah, Ms. Johnson is our chief purchasing officer, but you may want to expand it to the purchasing director as well.
Okay,
It's just an
purchasing.
idea.
Okay, purchasing director. That's helpful.
Which is essentially our procurement officer.
Yes.
Officer,
Yeah,
right?
100% the procurement.
Right.
I say my personal experience and expertise in procurement, ed tech contracts, etc. That we should definitely consider this as a committee and full board.
Yes.
There are some school districts across this country that require this even of principals. I applied at one and you were required to be able to do that because of the way large school finances are handled, so.
We can make it as broad as the committee feels relevant. In my past life, I've also required it of our major contract entities that they verify that they don't have any relationship with anybody internal to my organization. So for instance, we might even have a requirement that Navigant, our construction company, do a similar financial disclosure. We could do something like, we could be that broad if you want it.
And Attorney McLaughlin, what in your experience in the past, like how has staff received that? And, typically what is the sentiment or like feeling around, requesting that kind of information from either contractors, RFP that we're asking, and also our employees?
Well, I can tell you, usually there's resistance to it,
Yep.
just because it is a little burdensome. With the contractors themselves, they don't often like to do it because they don't have, unless we put an ordinance in place, they wouldn't have a legal requirement to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We can move forward, not at this moment, but we could start making it part of our vendor operations requirements too in our contract. So
Mm-hmm.
there is an opportunity to expand this. It's not going to be an easy boat to turn, but I think we can definitely look at it, and certainly it could be appropriate in many cases.
Yeah. Yeah. I figured that. And I agree.
Yes. Yeah, it's another accountability step that can give the public confidence in us,
Yeah.
even though those forms do take some time to fill out. Okay.
And I imagine, and sorry, Ms. Hubbard, I'm board member Hubbard, excuse me. I imagine though, like if we would adopt this policy or would adopt this ordinance at the district, through the state of Missouri, that there would be somebody at the district who could support our staff members, with filling out that information, making sure that it's filled out correctly on time and submitted. Um, Given that the next round is due September 15th, which is 11 days from now.
Oh,
I'm
I'm
assuming.
sorry. Yeah, let me clarify that. We would have to have the ordinance into the state by September 15th. We can't do that, but we can by September 15th of
Next year.
26. Right.
Next year. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so we have planted the seed. How do we water it?
Well, I know President Collins Adams looked like she was about to come off mute,
Okay.
so definitely want to give her that space to add any thought.
No, I think it's really good. I mentioned that was required in several other places, and definitely a requirement that I had to fulfill in some of the higher level jobs that I held. So I think that sometimes you do have resistance. I think it's really important for especially smaller businesses to be able to disclose whether or not they are financially sound, so that they're not putting themselves in a position to need us.
Yeah. Okay, should we have a subcommittee to look at this? Because if it's September of next year, I don't want to forget it, but we also have more immediate things to be dealt with. So please let me know what you think about timing or how this should work or how we should, we could, have other board members involved on the committee. Or no, what was the word?
It would be an ad hoc committee.
Yes, that,
Um,
the ad hoc committee. So Ms. Foster, Dr. Collins Adams.
I think it's a good idea so that we can keep it alive and start looking at it, but I don't think that we need to put too much weight into it right now because we have some other bigger fish to fry. But it's something we definitely have to look at. And if we set a timeline in our next governance meeting of how we're going to look at certain things, we've listed several things that we're planning on doing and what's the time frame for it. So if we say by, March 15th, we have gotten a committee together and then,
Okay.
by the 30th, we're done, then that gives us enough time to create, review, go back to the board, then and finally get it to a vote.
Okay.
But I think that we have to act on it right now. We just have to know that that's a strong possibility. That's something that'll protect us in the future.
Okay.
Yeah. 100% in agreement. And I think outside of referring to maybe me and President Collins Adams, like Attorney McLaughlin, please feel free to give us like any overview of how long these ordinance drafts typically take. But I think we could probably stamp a date for building the ad hoc committee and soliciting committee members and have that placed on a late March or early April agenda item. So we can move this to the board before June and it's implemented in August. And I think that really just looks like some administrative things that Ms. Vaughn could support with. But Attorney McLaughlin, I think, yeah.
So I'd like to just jump in and share that when the email comes to me, it has already a formatted template that we just insert our name.
Perfect.
And then we would we would provide some professional development and help people fill it out right there in our professional development and keep it moving. But if we feel like we need an ad hoc committee, okay.
No, I think that's helpful information. That it's a
Yeah.
template that is emailed
It is.
straightforward. Again, and that's why I made the comment or asked the question of, okay, well, if this is doing 11 days, what does the actual work on the back end look like? If it looks like an email to our superintendent to send that out to her staff and her team, I'll push and say, I don't know why we need to wait until 2026. I get that we have bigger fish, but this is a big fish too. If it is a template that we just need to fill out, I think we could, I'm just gonna push and say maybe this can actually happen sooner
I
than,
think it's not that. It's the conversation that we have that says it becomes a requirement.
right?
Yeah, if we don't pass the ordinance, they're not legally required to do it.
Yeah,
Correct. That's the part. But
Yeah.
the template is already ready to go.
Right. And we have to people understand this is coming.
yep. Okay, thanks.
Okay. So do we need a motion to ask Ms. Vaughn to put it on the calendar to start in March, or can we just say, please put that on the calendar? Ms. McLaughlin.
I think it's just a committee decision that we put it.
Okay.
I think we can maybe make a motion to, and again, this is part of discussion, it's not a formal motion. I think we can make a motion for the superintendent to either fill out the template when the time is appropriate to then get started with moving forward with the entire ordinance adoption. But other than that, I agree with the superintendent that we don't need an ad hoc committee to get this done. And yeah, curious about what y'all think on that motion. And also too, Dr. Borshade, please feel free to jump on and let us know, like, actually, I can't do that. I don't have capacity.
Yeah, I can share the template at our next, I can share the template out later today. We can go from there.
Well, they actually themselves complete the same template as
Mhm.
us every year. So I would just, how about this? Can I recommend that we come back to you with a draft of the ordinance and then you can expand it to whatever employee positions you want to put in it?
Great. Do we all feel
Yeah.
good about that? And I can make a motion.
And we can do that in March. We
Like
can
I
bring
said,
that to you in March.
preparing individuals, because the bottom line is this, the conversation that involves the individuals that actually have to do this paperwork is not the conversation that we're worried about. It's the fact
Yeah,
that the noise that will accompany it saying that we've changed the requirement now, so it's got to do such, and it'll spread into bigger than it actually is. So that's why it's really important to be able to do this in the right way so that information gets out in a calm and standard way.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh.
The root bill is real.
Yeah. Well then, Ms. Hubbard, do you think there's any more discussion? If not, I can make a motion for Ms. Vaughn to place this on the agenda for our March governance meeting, our first March governance meeting.
That sounds great.
Great. Okay, I like to move that we place the ordinance notice and the supplemental information, including a complete template for governance committee recommendations, be presented at the beginning March governance meeting in 2026.
Second.
I guess we've kind of done discussion. Ms. Vaughn.
Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Dr. Collins Adams. Dr. Collins Adams,
Yes.
oh, and Ms. Hubbard,
Yes.
motion approved.
And okay, and the final thing on our agenda before adjournment is talking about a retreat that is very much needed and figuring out how to go the best way to go for planning it.
I think, are we ready to talk about it now?
Yes.
I think with the upcoming MSBA conference, Ms. Foster and I went to a MSBA training together and we learned a lot just through that process. I think originally when I said we would not have a retreat anytime soon, it was to be able to allow us to go to the MSBA conference and to learn what we needed to know to be able to make changes. Now, everyone since then, I realize will not be going to that conference, so that changes that scope. I don't know when we have time now with what's going on and when the next retreat could actually be planned, so we'd have to figure all that out and work with MSBA and the rest of our board. It's not, I think it's needed. I think we together so that we can plan our next steps.
Would it be possible to put out some dates? Some dates for, if not September, if not October, November?
Oh, yeah, it's possible to do that. I can do that with Ms. Hubbard. The president, vice president is going to set the retreat anyway, so that we can get everyone to buy into it and actually say they're going to come. The problem is we'd have to either take a Saturday because very few of us, and I believe maybe 2 of us, do not work on a daily basis, and everyone else has obligations that 2 board members out of the 7 do not have. So we have to be considerate of PTO time for our board members that are also going to take off time in October. So we have to figure all of this out, but it'd be great to be able to poll them and ask them when they would think they'd be available to be able to do that and how that works with their employment, because it is a full day retreat. And we have to be respectful of that the other
Can be a
people retreat are employed and that's a part of their job. This retreat is not a part of our job, but is a part of our responsibility. So.
It can be a full day, a weekend. It can be 3 evenings, from 5 to 8. I mean, there are a variety of ways that a board retreat can happen. So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, and we need to propose, Ms. Hubbard and I'll get together and create that and get this out to everyone and Mr. Marston so that, and he loves doing charts. We'll get that to everyone so that we can determine when we can all meet. I know they have other obligations that I don't have. I don't have small children either, or children that are in, and we're fortunate because our board members have their children in SLPS schools. So I want to respect all of that.
Yeah. I think the point you bring up is valid. As one of the board members who does work during the day, retreats can be long, but I think they are needed, and it is what we signed up for. It is what we campaigned and elected for. So I want to ask maybe Dr. Borshade a question, like, what do you think is the best format based on the retreat that we did have over the summer coming into the academic year? Because I'll be candid and say I think waiting until November is just too long.
It's too long.
Um,
I agree.
we just passed Labor Day. We just passed Labor Day, right? So I think realistically, probably preferably, we would have had one either before Labor Day or coming into this week or next week. So if that's something that, one day can be asynchronous and we fill in some information, we do some work time, some homework time, at the end of the day, we did sign up for this, right? We campaigned and elected for this. So I think deferring to our superintendent on an appropriate time is actually probably best on what is like top of mind and priority, because yeah, we're going through bylaw changes and board norm changes. This is work time that we could be utilizing. So agree with the superintendent that there's a lot of modes that we can actually have this happen, regardless if people have 9 to 5s or school commitments, grad school, etc. And I'm saying it as somebody who is one of 2 board members who do work full time.
Yeah, what I can do is send out a doodle poll and then people can share their availability and we will build it from there.
Who's going to actually come? How would this work? What do you envision?
We can talk about that. It can be in the same format where MSBA came out and shared and facilitated. It can be board members leading. But that's something that we can talk about once we've landed on some dates.
Yeah. And then maybe one of those questions, superintendent, in that doodle poll, because I think they are effective, is like at the bottom, just, hey, what are some topics? What are some discussion items for information only items that you think is appropriate for us to be working on? Just again, it doesn't have to necessarily be addressed in this retreat, but it could get addressed in a November retreat or a December retreat. But just top of mind, what are our priorities for the 25-26 academic year? Because y'all, we have to get time together. We have to get time together.
Yes. No, I will say that for me, my classes are in the evenings, which I have a Monday class and a Wednesday class. So that busts out some of those dates. But a Friday night, Saturday morning thing, if that works for people.
Let's just send out the poll. Let's just see what everybody is available to do so that have to be in October or November. There's so much going on in September right now, so.
So much.
That gives us enough time to get MSBA involved and Dr. Marisha Day to get, we don't want, I'm gonna say this sounds a little crude, but we don't want to get in and do a dog and pony show. We want to get in and do business. It'll definitely board. I will have strong input on how we, in a retreat, will lead the business aspect of it so that we get everything covered in a timely manner, because I think we've wasted a lot of time in discussion. That's my personal opinion. That is not documented anywhere. And if we're gonna take our personal time now to be able to do a retreat, then we have to have the discussions that are relevant to what we're actually working on. And Dr. Marisha Day knows what we need to be working on in the school district, and the board members know what we need to be working on within the board, because we have discussions amongst ourselves, and her leadership team has discussions. We need to combine all those efforts together.
Agreed.
Yes.
Send something out, and we don't do it so that everybody has an opportunity to say what their personal input is. And I'm just saying this because the feedback that I've gotten on special meetings and some other things that we've had to pull together because it was necessary, was some negative information. And I don't think that we need to subject ourselves to that anymore.
Nice. Okay. Miss Attorney McLaughlin or Miss Vaughn, please let me know if I need to make a formal motion, or move a formal motion, but I think as far as discussion, we've decided Superintendent Borshade is going to send out a doodle poll for board members, to give their availability for an October and November, Board of Education retreat.
That's
We do not need a motion for that. That would just be a follow-up.
Great, thanks. And also too, thank you, Dr. Borshade, for coordinating 8+ people's schedule. That is a lot. So thank you.
yes.
Thank you.
I forgot to say this during the the board ordinance discussion, but thank you, Ms. Vaughn, for sending out your reminders for the board members to complete our personal financial disclosures. And the next item on the list is adjournment.
So before we adjourn, I just want to make it clear as a matter of record that I did state that the board would actually coordinate this and not Dr. Marisha Day, because I've gotten concerns about the board not stepping up and leading what they needed to be doing. And that's why I suggested that the board vice president, board secretary, and the president will work with the entire board to be able to determine what we needed. I need to be able to have some of those voices calmed and create input that comes from us to everyone. So please understand that, and I just wanted that as a matter of record. This is because this is a board concern and a board issue, that the board is not together on some things, and we need to be able to work together with the school district and the superintendent to get some clarity on some items. And since some of the board norms are going to be discussed in the future, we need to be able to talk amongst ourselves in a guided conversation so that we don't have these issues in the future. I'm making this really clear that this is, although Dr. Marisha Day says she'll do the doodle poll, I strongly suggested that it be the board to do this so that the board feels like they're doing what they're responsible for doing and that the superintendent is not leading the board.
If creating the doodle poll makes it seem like I'm leading the board, I will absolve myself of doing a doodle poll.
Dr. Marisha Day, you're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah. And I think too, President Collins Adams, you're absolutely right. Like, absolutely right. I 110% agree. If that needs to be coordinated between Dr. Borshade and the board's secretary, Ms. Vaughn, who's on the call right now, I think we just need to make it happen and move forward. But I agree with the sentiment. Thank you.
And I agree that it does make more sense for Ms. Vaughn to send out a doodle poll, which leaves our superintendent to have one less thing to worry about.
Awesome.
Yes. And the next thing is adjournment. Is there a motion?
I move that we adjourn our governance meeting at, what time is it? 1:14.
Second.
Ms. Vaughn.
Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Dr. Collins Adams, Ms. Hubbard.
Yes. And thank you everyone for a productive meeting.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Really
Bye-bye.